Hello. Can everyone hear me now? Sound's coming up. I got 3 Brendans joined. If you can hear me, give me a +1. Oh, that's it. Loud and clear. +1. Awesome. Hey Zoe, how you doing? Brendan can hear me too. Nice to see you. Just going to give everyone a couple of minutes to join in. Thanks for joining. Where is everybody coming from? Zoe, Brendan, whereabouts in the world are you guys? Nice. I just finished watching. I had to finish early to prepare for this call, but I just finished watching Billie Jean's AI with High Level with Paulson. That was pretty insanely cool. I don't know if anybody caught that, but if you didn't catch that, you definitely want to watch the replay for that. That was eye-opening to say the least. So yeah, San Diego, Pittsburgh. Harry's here. Not joining as a host though, Harry. So here he comes.
Hello.
How you doing? We're live.
Yep.
You gotta look
Hello,
at the
everyone.
camera.
Yep. Let me just switch my view.
No worries.
All
I'm getting
right.
a little bit of feedback on your microphone there as well, but maybe that was me. Maybe just when you initially joined. So anyway.
How about now? Is it okay?
Yeah, it's not too bad. Yeah. I'm just I said I'll probably give it till 5 past the hour for waiting for anybody else who's going to join live. Hey Alicia. Hey Mario, TJ. I have a feeling I know who that TJ is. Niklas, Ali. How you doing? Feel free to say hi in the chat, or if you can't hear us or anything like that, let us know. I do have a moderator looking at the chat today, so if we get distracted by talking or whatnot, we should be fine. One more minute and we'll kick it off. All right, coming up to the hour now. So, did anybody on this webinar catch the Billie Jean session with Paulson? Oh, hey admin, I think that's Dan. Nice to have you, Dan. Yeah, nice, Brendan. Yeah, it was really cool. Basically, just using ChatGPT and other AI tools to basically do everything that they were doing for them. But the way that they were prompting was kind of amazing. So yeah, I thought it was really cool. Plus, that guy's just a really cool personality. So anyway, so we're 5 past the hour. Welcome. Let me see if I can share my screen here. I haven't used this tool for a while, but we're going to just share the slides. Yeah. 2 minutes. Here we go. All right, I'm just going to share my entire screen. That's going to be the easiest way to do this. I can hear your keyboard, by the way. Harry? Yeah. My keyboard's one of those mechanical ones. It's right near the thing. Hey, Robin, how you doing? She's just come in 2 seconds. That's great. So still a couple of people trickling in as I get this ready. So cool. All right. So I'm just going to share my screen, and I'm going to flick over to a presentation, and let's do present mode. So let me know if everybody's got that. If you just give me a +1 or something like that. Thanks, Zoe. Appreciate it. Hey, Abigail. How you doing? Alicia as well. Okay, cool. So why are we doing this, right? So Growthable as an organization, we're a vendor in the ecosystem. If you haven't heard of us, what we do is we help companies and agencies essentially scale beyond yourselves by allowing us to run your onboarding. And the reason we wanted to run this webinar, of course, was we've been doing onboarding for a long time, and myself and Harry,
Yep.
you know, Harry, you do about 5 or 6 calls a day yourself, amongst other things. And so we've run just millions and millions and millions of onboarding calls, right? I'm exaggerating a little bit, but certainly well over 10,000. And we get lots and lots of questions coming to us all the time about, most of the time, not even if you want to use us, right? But like, how could we potentially pass on those learnings to people that have agencies, whether you're a high-level agency or not? Really, it's just about, some of the things that we've learned around running so many onboarding calls. So we hope, as part of this presentation today, whether you stay for the whole thing or not, we will be sending out recordings. We've got some templates, we've got some snapshots, we've got all sorts of stuff that might help you skip the mistakes that we came across, and start to inform on how you can potentially build a winning process for your agencies. There, we've got David Wallace. We got Wow. So g'day from Australia. Nice to see you this morning. 5 a.m. for me. I think it's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon for anybody that was kind of on the eastern part of the United States. If you want to let us know where you're from, that'd be awesome. So moving right along. So who's on the call today? So this is me, of course, but enough about me. Really, the star of the show here is Harry, who is one of our most senior customer success and onboarding staff members, who's been with us quite a while. Harry, where are you from?
I'm from Philippines. Been with the Growthable for half a year already, and yeah, pretty much enjoying.
Yeah, nice. Philippines. So, but you work, I mean, obviously we're awake now, but like, so you work across multiple different time zones, working in the US. So you're used to working for American clients quite regularly, right?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, cool. No, that's nice. And myself, I before I had a team of people helping me, personally used to run, all the onboarding calls myself. So, it wasn't until we built a team around us that, I managed to scale beyond myself, right? Which is the same problem that every agency founder has, right? Which leads me to my next point. But before we do, if this becomes, too unbearable and boring for you, I'm trying to keep it interesting as possible. I mean, it's not the sexiest subject in the world, so we're trying to make it interesting, but we are going to share the recording of our conversation. We are going to make it available as a podcast. We are going to share any of the templates that we talk about. We've able to turn various things into a snapshot, because if we've already built like an automation or something like that, we can put that in a snapshot and we can share that to everybody. It's absolutely free. We're not going to ask for your credit card. We're not going to ask for anything from you at all. We just want to give it to you. And if you're already here, we've got your email address. We'll be able to reach out and kind of ask you to join us for different things. We've got Alicia from the Philippines too. Hey, how you doing? So it's like 2 a.m. there for you, which is pretty crazy. So thanks. So yeah, there'll be promotions to anyone who does have the stamina to kind of stick it out and listen to us talk for the whole hour. We'll try to keep it as close as we can to time as well. So anyway, without further ado, I want to talk about scaling agencies, and I talk about like the average agency, right? And then we'll talk about some of the really interesting case studies that we've got. So we're going to have mostly case study based conversations. Harry's here because he works across so many different agency accounts. Harry, I mean, I think you probably work across 50 or so agencies, but most of the time, maybe like, you're probably very close to maybe like 30 or 40 at any one time, right?
Right.
Yeah. Um, so you get a really sort of depth of experience across the different niches, like on our, like I can only sort of speak from our own experience. Like we've got our own agency, we're working with agencies, but we've got so many different niches that we talk about, right? And the niche thing for me is really what is fascinating, right? Like the agency itself becomes successful, I think, right? Because what happens is you apply your own subject matter expertise in a particular subject, right? So you are the subject matter expert, and you apply your subject matter expertise with the right tools, and the right tools are, in this case, it's high level, right? So and your marketing services that sort of complement high level. But let's take the classic case of giving sort of like the SaaS play, by delivering high level. And certainly it amplifies any sort of service level, I suppose, product that any agency has. But beauty and magic happens when a subject matter expert is given the right tools, and then they're able to deliver like amazing outcomes to a client, right? So as an agency founder, you might be really, you might have worked in life insurance for 20 years. You come out of that and you think there's got to be a better way. You might be a hypnotist coach. You might be a breastfeeding certified expert, but you know that there's a better way to, one, generate leads, two, nurture those leads, etc. So it's the context that you yourself as a subject matter expert bring to the market. Hey, Paul, that enables you to really kind of resonate with those clients, right? And then the problem that we see is, of course, we want to be able to scale beyond yourself, right? You can't onboard every single client. So you end up with the right tools, but now you're looking for the right person. Hey, Nicholas, how you doing? Where are you from, Nicholas? And so, this is some of the things that we want to talk about today. We want to talk about, like, in our opinion, we go and talk to so many of the VAs, right? Like if you were to go into the high level official community on Facebook and ask for a VA to help you with something, they are, you're going to, rest in peace inbox. You're going to get bombarded with all sorts of people that tell you that they are, from Germany, g'day. They're experts and this and that and the other. So, what some of the things that we've experienced through, the vetting and training and whatever process is not necessarily about where to find them. Certainly that's something that we've gotten good at, and that's how we're able to kind of, build our own business, but the right types of people, right? So Harry, you're, initially, like, let's talk about some of the experience you had initially. I think, you talked about where, you did some work over in the Middle East, right?
That's correct. Before I worked with Growthable, I had a 5 year experience working in Saudi Arabia. I worked there in the company called Aramco, Arabian American company before, and I was an assistant to the manager, admin manager to be exact. And we have different EPC. They call it EPC, and our goal there is to create the or build the oil refinery. So we handled most of the purchasing, engineering, and construction. So my
Yeah.
job there is to take care of the welfare of each of the employee. We got like 8,000 employee there, and yeah, we manage
Yeah.
the
Well,
daily
and
life
so
living.
what were you? What was it? What was a day like? What was like an 8 hour day consisting of for you, and in that
That is
role?
actually, it's not an 8 hour day; it's a 12 hour
Okay.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, it's most start um, our lives there. Our daily life is in the middle of nowhere. We're like in the middle of
Yeah.
the the desert, and We're creating
Yeah.
refinery there. So our 8 hours work start in the office, ends in the office. Sometimes I go in the field, check the welfare of our people, and see what's going on and supporting
Yeah.
their daily needs, of course.
Yeah. So that kind of background, right? When I'm looking for someone to work, as the first person that my clients would speak to once they've signed on the dotted line, right? I'm not looking for someone who used to work in the Middle East for an oil refinery, right? However, what's interesting about your background, Harry, is that it's the unexpected experience that really, shapes, who you are, now today, and the way that you are able to communicate with clients, right? And it's just a very
Right.
eclectic kind of background. What we've found, right, is that if you try to go and hire someone who is technical, then you'll probably struggle to train and coach on the soft skills. So I see this as like a hard skill problem and a soft skill problem, right? The hard skills
Right.
you can train and coach because they are, this is how you use high level, blah, blah, blah. And then the soft skills is the interpersonal communication.
That's
Um,
correct.
and I would probably say that even more important, right? And Harry, you're probably going to agree with this, right? But even more important than finding someone who, um, I guess, knows, knows the high level platform if we're onboarding for high level, blah 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 blah. Is that we basically can't miss meetings, right? Like we have to show up no matter what. One, if it was your own business and you were running your own boarding, you would never miss an onboarding session. That person has just paid you money. They've got an onboarding session at 9 o'clock in the morning. You're going to be there 5 minutes before, ready to go, right? Now, and, so with you, Harry, like, would you say that, um, I mean, I know that this is the case, right? But like, that punctuality and consistency, right, obviously is massively important. And that's the thing that we've found. And Harry, you probably don't know actually too much of this, right? But like, we've actually had to go through quite a lot of people before we landed on people like Harry that were great at, maybe the tools, right? But when you start to operate at a certain volume and your customer acquisition process and your customer acquisition cycles start to operate at a particular volume, you could really say like, well, I'm not. You start to basically place weight on punctuality and having someone who can communicate really well over the hard skills. It doesn't matter how much they know high level or that they know how to add a DMARC record to the DNS of someone's email if they weren't there on time, right? And so really my biggest piece of advice to anybody who's running an agency out there looking for talent to run onboarding is look for those soft skills first. Do they show up on time? Can they be consistent? And we were talking about this before, Harry. Like having the same amount of energy on call 5 and 6 at the end of your day as was call one is a
Right.
difficult thing to do, right? And you touched on looking after yourself and those types of things. But like, do you have anything else to add, like in terms of like how do you balance your energy throughout the day to do like 6 onboarding calls? Like it's the same conversation, right, every single day. But like, do you want to add any thoughts to that?
Oh, definitely. First of all, of course, you need to make sure that your daily routine, you will not, most of the time you're not gonna mess that up because it's gonna, put some pressure on your mind, of course. And yeah, I mentioned that already. You need to make sure that you're ready for each and every call and make sure that the energy is there. However, as I mentioned, the first 4 calls, yep, you're gonna give your 100%, but on the next 5 or 6 call, it might be 50% already lessen your energy. But you need to do what you need to do. But the good thing
Yeah,
about this is what I like about onboarding is you're meeting new people, talking with new people and having different kind of character, and you're enjoying talking to those people and enjoying those character also, and you learn a lot
Yeah.
every single day with those people. Yeah. Small talks with each and every people, that gives you like excitement whenever you talk to someone, knowing
Yeah.
their character, their what their sometimes small talk before the onboarding helps a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that comes back to your interpersonal skills, right? Like if you're not capable of small talk, then you would, I would argue that if you're not capable of small talk and you don't enjoy meeting new people 5, 6 times a day, then and you're just a robot, like you're just following an SOP, and you can't like ask them how their day is going, ask them, why they, ask them about their business, right? Like ask them, why they chose to come and work with that agency, that the one, I think that, that person would um, become quite bored of their job and they would burn out, right? Like
Agree.
you do this literally every day, right? And so I think that probably the way that the people that you meet throughout the day is probably what keeps you kind of interested, right, in the next call and the next call. Because I would say 80% of the SOPs that you follow are pretty much the same, right?
That is correct.
Yeah. Oh, we've got Denfield here. Hey, Denfield, where are you coming from, Denfield? If you can put where you're from in the chat. Hey, Paul. Hey, Ebenezer. Um, so, okay, great. So, this is some of the things that we found, like Harry, when we were looking for someone. Oh, there he is, police. So what I was shocked by, well, not shocked, but what I was surprised by was that it was never about having high level experience. It was about like finding those soft skills, um, the interpersonal skills, the ability to, in that first few minutes, develop a rapport, ask them about, what's happening for them, ask them about their day or whatever, and then move into, all right, now we've got to do this boring thing, but hang in with me, we're going to get through it, right? So, no, we can't hear you, Paul, you're on a webinar. All right. Moving right along. So, well, some of the mistakes that we see, right? And I'm going to get into some screen sharing and various bits and pieces. It's not just death by PowerPoint here. But what we see is we say, like, when it's time for agencies to scale the operation beyond themselves, when they're looking at hiring a VA or hiring Growthable or another vendor or whatever, what I see as the pitfalls is that the client's not prepared. They don't have the client to focus on their outcomes, and they're not doing much to ensure attendance, right? So, a couple of examples here, and Harry, if you've got some interesting stories to share about this, I mean, it'd be great. But I know from personal experience, right, that I've had every situation that you could imagine come to fruition, right? So let me just paint a picture, right? We used to work with an agency that, what did they do? They used to sell marketing and Facebook ads. They used to use UpX as a plugin. So social media ads, lead capture, lead automation. And as part of that, they selling to uh, coaches that worked in baseball stadiums, right? And they did a really good job at going out, because they were, the guy was like an ex-professional baseballer, so he's the subject matter expert. Awesome. Has the right tools, high level, goes and has a conversation, can speak baseball language and can speak marketing language, and convinces them, hey, we're ready to rock. And then all they did was go and get Growthable. Hey, here's a calendar link. Go and talk to that person. And every situation that we saw, right? Like we would have a team of 20 people in a stadium show up to the presentation, expecting it to be a sales call or a secondary demonstration. And onboarding is not a secondary sales call. Now, you might design your customer acquisition process to include a function of customer success that does a secondary sales call or a demonstration that reaffirms the purchase they've already made. But when we define onboarding, we don't define it as a sales function. It can amplify and help sales along, but mostly through expansion, like upsells and things like that. And I'll get to that in a minute. But it's not a function of sales per se. It's a function of adoption by making sure that prerequisites are done. Again, it's not sexy, it's boring, and that's why we're in a job, because agency owners don't want to do this stuff, right? It gets away from doing, working with really cool things and having to go and do all the boring stuff. So the mistakes that I've seen is like they don't prepare the client at all, right? Now, it's very easy to just go and write an email to say, before you get to your onboarding call, which is coming up in however long, 3 days, 1 day, whatever, we would like you to go and prepare the following. Make sure you know how to share your screen on Zoom. Make sure you're not on a mobile phone. And you literally need to start with the most basic of basic things, right, Harry? I mean, we get people on trains. We get people in bed. We get people in the dark. We get people on their mobile phone, on a train, traveling at 300 kilometers per hour. I've literally had someone traveling from London to Paris on a train expecting to do an onboarding call where, we're going to be running through all sorts of integrations. We're going to be doing screen sharing. And they're like, hey, I'm ready. And you're like, did no one tell you that, this was going to be like, this is a professional setting. We need you to have a screen ready. You can't be on your phone. And Harry, like, I've had people who, like the technical challenges of connecting to Zoom, the wrong link, all that stuff, right? And that comes down to preparation. Like, you got any crazy stories of people being in sort of weird situations, nightclubs, things like that? I've had it all.
Yeah, I had experience with one of our client that I onboard. He's in the interstate driving car. So while talking to me, so I told him that, hey, you should stop first because it's dangerous to talk to me while you're driving. So he's
Yeah.
expecting me to onboard him while driving and
Whilst he was
talking.
driving, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I've had that. I've had plenty of people in cars actually, and then they're talking on the phone, and they kind of pull over and they expect that they're going to be able to finish it. And again, like I think that speaks to the fact that like, how is onboarding being articulated to your clients? Like, if they see it as such little importance that one, they make sure they could be ill prepared, right? They see it as something of such little importance that they would think that they'd be able to do it on their way somewhere, right? And I think that is like a killer of, the customer experience is not emphasizing how important getting these prerequisites done, particularly with something like high level, is to adoption, right? So, error number one, they don't prepare the client, right? Error number two, they're not focusing on the outcomes and they don't do anything to ensure attendance, right? So if you're doing this yourself, if you're using high level, you would expect, a day before, an hour before, you're coming up, you've got things going on, right? So I'll just pause there, but like just a show of hands here, right? Like who's currently running their own boarding? Just put like, I don't know, put a +1 in or something like that. Who's running their own onboarding in this one, right? Brendan's doing his own onboarding. I'd be interested to see how much you prepare your own clients, Brendan. Like, if you're, sending them videos or giving them, a checklist and, those type of things. And we've got some example checklists of things that we like to prepare clients for here. But also, if you've ever had anyone show up to an onboarding on a phone or in a car or anything like that, give us a +1. That'd be interesting to see. So, these are all kind of things that we see and we help to try to avoid, definitely. So, who's right for this? I think we talk about it that, the interpersonal skills and the punctuality are going to be almost 80% of what you need to be looking for when you're looking for someone around onboarding. Next time is around lead time, right? So Robin and Ebenezer, you've got people showing up in cars and stuff like that, right? So interestingly now, so this is a different subject matter, right? Like, so you need someone punctual, you need someone with interpersonal skills, but then you also need, if someone has just signed on the dotted line, they want to sign up with your agency, you need to have that lead time as short as possible, but you don't want it too short, right? So if someone signs up on Monday morning, 9 a.m., like you shouldn't be running an onboarding session at 9:30, right? Like one, it's sort of like too desperate, two, there's got to be some sort of preparation on the agency side. And it's, like things like, fill out this survey, complete this form, and those types of things, right? But there is a key to the lead time. And like, I'd love to know what you guys think, Brendan, Robin, Ebenezer, what is too long for you in the number of days between when someone signs up with you and when they should be onboarded? Is like 5 days too long? Is 3 days too long? Let me know your thoughts there in that chat. And, so this is some of the things that we can do. It's like, well, if your volumes dictate extended lead times, should you be running? That's interesting, Robin. So you're saying 5 to 7 days is the current, or are you saying that that's too much? Ebenezer 4+. Too long, yeah, of course, yeah, 5 to 7 days. So the volumes will dictate whether you should be doing dedicated times throughout the week. And what we do with particular clients that have high volumes is we say, well, don't worry about going on the normal calendar where people are sort of picking times that suit them. You're just going to say, Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, at these times, that's when you can go and be onboarded by, whoever's sitting there waiting to do it, right? And we started to do those dedicated sessions. It also brings the question in on whether or not you'd like to run group onboardings. Give me a +1 if you're running group onboardings, or if you're doing any sort of group session on a weekly basis at the same time. Be interesting to see if anybody's doing that. Nice one, Zoe. But your unit economics needs to make sense to run group onboardings as well, right? Like, you can't run group onboardings if you're charging $10,000 a month. I mean, if you do group onboardings, if you're charging $10,000 a month, well done. But, if you're charging $10,000 a month, I think you expect a certain level of personalization. If you're lumped into a group session, I think you might find that the customers might have something to say about that. We also have worked out that like doing combinations of both dedicated time slots, group sessions, and giving people the option for one-on-one sessions works really well. So you might say, let's do a group onboarding session on Wednesdays at 9 o'clock. For the first 30 minutes, Harry, you're running a how-to on the most core things. Like, this is how you can pre-fill information for an A2P 10 DLC submission, which we really need. This is how you can connect DNS records so that your funnel can be publicly available. And this is how you can connect your ads manager, which is UpX, by clicking, over here in Facebook, click, 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 right? Those 3 things, this is how you do it. Now, if you get to the end of the 30 minutes, you say, give me a show of hands who needs one-on-one time, right? And you would get, show of hands on that group session, and you'd make notes, and you would say, okay, I'm going to send you 3 people who gave me the show of hands, a link to the one-on-one session, right? So you might run it like that. It allows for the psychology of, if someone in your audience or one of your customers feels like their technical aptitude to do this is strong enough, you've catered to them. If they feel like they're overwhelmed, it's too technical, I'm low tech, I need someone to hold my hand, you've catered to them, right? So you can be exhaustive in catering to the different types of personalities, I guess, whether they're kind of, early innovator, early adopter, low, sort of late majority type personalities, right? David's back. So that's what I want to talk about there, right? And now for some of the interesting stuff, right? So what should it cover? So we always start with like a bit of a baseline SOP. And it's kind of a little bit outdated now, but like we have, if you're a high level agency, and I assume everyone on this call is a high level agency, but we start with, and if you can't see what I'm looking at a Google Doc. If you can't see it, just let me know in the chat. But we're looking at a Google Doc, and this is what we use for an onboarding session. I'm going to run through this real quick, right, on what it would look like if I had no idea about your agency, no idea about your niche. We start with our template, right? And what's really important from an onboarding point of view is when you're in your agency, you're always interacting in a sub account, right, as the agency user, right? So let's just go into, say, a snapshot or something like that. And you need to onboard someone acting as a user of the sub account, right? So that when you go to settings, you have an option coming up in this menu system, which is called My Profile. If you've ever wondered why that doesn't appear, it's because you're the agency user, not the user of the sub account. And until you log in as a user of the sub account, which I can do, which would be like that. Oh, I've already logged into that person. Oh, I mustn't be a user of that person. Okay, so let's just go back to this company here and go back to my profile. Great. So unless I see my profile, I can't do what I need to do as a user of the sub account. And we always start with, okay, great. We could pre-fill this information by asking for a survey. However, it's just first name and last name, right? So trying to automate your way through this sometimes isn't worth the amount of effort and investment that you spend on that anyway. What we normally do is we normally start with the My Profile section, right? We'll say, hey, we want to make sure that you can log in. Can you log in? Can you reset your password? High Level have recently updated the way that new users get added into sub accounts, and that they need to basically have two-factor authentication verified before they can be verified into a sub account. So that's kind of changed a little bit. That needs to be updated for us. And then we'll say something along the lines of, okay, great. Where are my screen gone? Harry, you can see where I'm sharing my high level instance, right?
Yes, you're sharing your high level. Yes.
Yeah, cool. And you can see my personal photo, right? So, make sure you get your photo, blah, blah, blah. Now, one of the most important things, of course, is to set that user's time zone. Regardless of whether they use Zoom or whatever, right? You've got to make sure the time zone for the actual user is set. We get that done. And then we say, okay, as a human being, right, in the business, are you expected to take meetings? Yes? Great. Well, let's start with your availability, right? Normally, this starts out as 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You need to adjust that and just say, hey, Brian, when is your actual availability going to be up and running? And basically what we're doing is we're saying, like, this is when you're awake, right? I say, like, this is when you're awake. In this time zone, I'm awake here, right? And it's really key, because what we see is, we're a support company. We have thousands of support queries a day across hundreds of agencies. Is people saying, like, I'm not seeing people, aren't being able to book in, right? And it starts with doing this properly during onboarding, making sure that availability is done correctly here, making sure that the time zones and everything is set up, right? And then, of course, we'll move on to the rest, right? And I'm not going to step through every single thing. We'll then go on to business information, make sure that everything's done there. A2P information is set correctly. Now, we'll go through an A2P submission during our own onboarding, right? Because why, when we've got things like SMS and voice being really key to, communicating with clients, like A2P is probably one of the top 3 things that we do during onboarding. Harry, over to you for a second for a couple of questions around A2P. How do they normally go for you when you're running, like, you're just randomly getting, some guy driving down the interstate, right? And he probably owns like a barbershop or something like that. Are
Right.
they normally confused by A2P? Like, does it take a long time? Like, what's your experience with A2P?
Well, basically, so I had experience with that. You need to explain why we need to do this, right? It's
Yeah.
just purchasing a number. They just said it's just purchasing a number. So I need to explain them what's an A2P and what's the purpose of it, and they need to understand that we need this information, and they need to match that. Especially those people who doesn't have EIN, we need to explain that um, sometimes you need to make sure that well, they have EIN but they don't have website, they don't have the business. Sometimes it's the cause of the rejection. So I need to explain every details. I give some maybe 3 minutes of myself to explain them what's the A2P and what's the purpose and what are the necessary requirements to make sure that it has a high chance of approval.
So, what I'm
Yeah,
hearing you say, though, Harry, is that they tend to not have any clue about what A2P is. So, there's no preparation being done.
that
You're
is
having to
correct.
explain the whole thing from scratch. Yeah. Okay.
That is correct.
Yeah. And so, do you find that what's the ratio like for you? Like, are you seeing that like um, a lot of people are sole proprietors, or are you seeing that they're actual business entities?
Yeah, I would say out of the 10 clients I experienced, four
Yeah.
ha- have, I mean, six out of them have their own EIN. The rest
Yeah.
will have their doesn't have an EIN and registered as sole proprietor.
And what sort of timeframes are we talking now for A2P 10 GLC submission and approval? Like, are we getting them back in 24 hours, 12 hours, 2 hours? What's up? What's that look like?
I'll, I'm giving them like, I would say 2 days. For there are two stages of approval. There's brand and campaign registration. I give them around 2 days
Brand
for
is almost
branding.
instant, right? Yeah.
Yeah. 24 hours to 48 hours, 2 days for the brand, while the campaign registration maybe 5 days to 3 weeks, something
Mhm.
like that. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. All right. Well, let me just share my screen back. I just want to cover off this entire screen. Here we go. Share one. So just back to this document again. Let me know when you can see that document, Harry, coming back.
Yep, I can see it.
Yeah, great. So that's what just covered there. So the phone numbers, the brand submission, and so yeah, campaigns approved right away. Exactly. Um, thanks for that, Paul. So and then we talk about calendars, right? And so calendars actually for me is a big subject, right? I don't know how many people talk about calendars during their onboarding. My advice to everyone is try to push as many calendars down in your snapshot as possible. There's so many options with calendars now that you could probably have a calendar conversation for about an hour. So um, I used to go into a ton of detail about the calendars, right? So used to click on, edit, and when you get to things like availability, you're like, look, you can add these availabilities. Is it recurring? The interval is going to show up as every 30-minute block. So when I actually click on that scheduling link, I'm going to see blocks of 30 minutes. The duration is going to be the duration. The maximum number of people per day. The date range is how many days in advance can I see. The minimum scheduling notice is how many days in the future can I book. And like you can just, and they'll ask a question after every single time that you mention one of these things, and that can go on for about 30 to 40 minutes if you spend a lot of time here. So to reduce onboarding around calendars, my advice to anybody is have the one or two or three calendars pre-configured and pushed down as part of a snapshot, and don't have all the options explained to them on the first call, because there'll be a level of overwhelm there. So that's my advice on calendars. And then we've got the beautiful SMTP and email now with DMARC and SPF, right? So we do DMARC and SPF as a minimum requirement for everybody, but there's always a provider that we haven't come across, right, Harry? So I mean, we had one like just yesterday that we didn't know how to work with, right?
Right.
Um, Wix is a particularly bad, hosting provider and those types of things. So, but what I do see is agencies that we work with that are in a niche tend to have an audience that use the same hosting providers, right? For whatever reason, right?
Right.
And I would never try to sit there and figure it out, right? I would have how-to guides in a separate resource for the hosting provider that we determine that they're on, right? So a lot of the time we won't know, right? But I think it's the job of the agency to kind of go, all right, if it's beyond GoDaddy, Namecheap, and maybe one or two others, right, which are fairly standard. Google domains, those are mostly like API driven. We can handle those. But if and I can't remember the names of some of the ones that I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of we've got an agency. I can't say the name on a webinar, but we've got an agency that they all come from this one host. So the best thing to do is to prepare them by having the documentation from that host and have it in one of the emails that we send to them saying, like, by the way, if you're on this hosting provider, we're going to need you to do this and this. And like often that's things like moving to Cloudflare as like a sort of a transition. But do the work, right? Otherwise, again, by not knowing what, you might have one or two outliers, right, where you just end up on some weird provider that we've never heard of before. But if we can try to foresee that and try to, think about the types of providers that we're going to end up on, then we can do a lot more. Adding users, talking about assignment, that can, again, not normally something that we'd go into a lot of detail on call one, right? And by the way, we would split this up into two potential calls. Ebenezer's back. How you doing? Back from Germany. Then domains, right? Now, one of the biggest mistakes I would see is if anyone wants their agency clients to use a root domain on the first onboarding call, I would say that's something that you want to avoid. I do see it happen where people want them to transfer their root domain of a particular website. Maybe they're bringing people over from Wix. Maybe they're trying to bring them over from, whatever, WordPress or something like that. Don't start with the root domain, right? Because what happens is if there's something goes wrong, you take down, by adding those DNS records, their actual live website, and they get to the end of that onboarding call thinking that you've actually caused more damage than that you've done good, right? So don't, I'm not an authority in this thing, but I'm just saying, like, my advice to agencies, definitely avoid doing root domains, at least until you've got some idea about like what's happening, right? Harry, you've probably seen a few root domains get added in before and websites get taken down.
Correct.
Yeah. It's never good, right? Like you take down the other website.
Yeah, it's gonna mess up.
Yeah, they always, and then they're like, well, what happened to my other website? And you're like, well, I've got here written, in my checklist that we were supposed to be migrating that across. So, it's bad for everybody, basically. Bring on a subdomain, at least in that first instance, to say, like, this is what it could look like if we were to bring your root domain over. But no, by doing that, it's going to take down your existing live website. So make sure you're fully integrated and happy. Now, third parties, right? Third parties can take up quite a lot of time. We've got a webinar coming up tomorrow about Boomerang, but there's some two common ones here, Upex and Play. We've still got a few people attending live. Thanks for sticking in with us. Does anybody use Upex? Put it as a +1. If you don't want to say, of course, don't worry about it. But does anybody use Upex or Play on the call right now? Nobody. Oh, we got a few.
Yep.
Jeremy uses Upex. I think I have a feeling I know who that Jeremy is, but yeah, so Upex is interesting. So Upex, so any third party that requires configuration, I think is the point, right? And so we have a lot of agencies that the core kind of one of the core things is that we need to get them to use, like in order to use Upex, you need to have Facebook up and running, right? Hey, Jordan, where are you coming from? Hey, Zoe, you back? So, I don't know if that's a connection issue or not, but I want to give everyone like a 2-minute thing of what we would normally do during an Upex on board, right? Harry, let me know if you can see my screen. I'm in my high level.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I can see it you're in your
So one of the ways,
right
like the way I would do it, right, is I would send an email like this, right? You're about to come on board with us in about 1 hour, right? Now, Sam Carlson from Upex taught this in some of his YouTube and whatever, which is setting the tonality and reframing what's going to happen during an onboarding call right before the onboarding call starts, right? So this is just a really basic example of what you could do and should do, right, to help a client get onboarded right before they go and speak to someone like you, Harry, right? So Harry does his preparation and he finds out, if it's an internal hire, they don't do this, right? But if you're using like a third party like Growthable, of course, we have to kind of like get in the zone of, working for you. But we can send this to them and say like, hey, you're coming up in 1 hour? Great, right? And I'm not going to press play and show the video, but I can send this to anybody who's interested. And this comes down with a bit of a snapshot as well. But this video, took me 3 minutes to make and goes for 2 minutes. And it basically says, hey, you've got an onboarding call coming up in an hour. I just wanted to remind you of the outcomes that we're looking to achieve by you coming on board with us. One is, we run ads, right? We do inbound, client acquisition strategies through social media, right? So we need to buy that media. So I need you to stay focused and help the technician get connected to Facebook. So you're going to have to get access to things like the ads manager. We're going to have to create a pixel. We're going to have to, go to have a business entity potentially. We're going to have a valid payment method. We're not going to be using a brand new Facebook profile. It's going to have some sort of age behind it. Otherwise, Facebook's going to put their fraud detection, thing in front of it. Blah, blah, blah. Whatever you want to say. But basically meaning like go and do the preparation. It's an hour away. Have your Facebook Ads Manager account ready to rock. Then have another video saying, if you don't understand what the hell I'm talking about, this is what I'm talking about, right? So it's the video saying you're about to do it with another video going into detail about the items. But we're focused on the priority for us is to get them spending money through social media so that we can get the traffic, so we get the leads, so we can do the nurturing, so we get the ROI. So it's paramount that they get this up and running. And that's, where we would come in as an agency for agencies and where your team would come in to make sure that they do everything they can in their power to get up and running. So, and then, if you get the lead, then you need to do something with the lead, right? So you need to capture, nurture, and nurture through things like voice, SMS, Instagram, whatever it is, right? That's going to require A2P if you're using SMS. Don't know what that is? Here's the full video. We're going to have to do integrations to social media, business profiles, etc. for your local business, blah, blah, blah. Don't know what that is? Here's the video. And by the way, watch that video, right? So you can't over communicate with clients with onboarding. Like you can't. You certainly can under communicate. That's for sure. And what that looks like in reality, right, is I've got Upex. I come down here and I'm like, great. One of the things we need to do is we've got this thing called the ads launcher, right? And you need to be connected to that. The way that we do that is we need to get this green tick, right? And if we don't have the green tick, we're looking at the ad account and the page, right? So this is connected to mine, which is 0579. And if I log into Facebook, right, probably risky doing this live on a webinar, but anyway, and so what I would do is I say log into Facebook. Great, go see more. Oh no, it's right there. Click Ads Manager. Sometimes it's below the see more button. and we'd start with the ads manager. And you start by saying, okay, well, where do we want to be? We want to be in the ad account manager ending in 0579, or do we want to be somewhere else? And it's basically making the synchronization between what they think the ads manager account is and what you've got set back here in UpX, right? And making sure the page is done and so on. Then, of course, it's like, all right, well, we need to do a pixel. Great. So if you haven't seen it before, we're going to go into the audiences. And actually, I'm not going to go into audiences. We're going to go into all tools, events manager. This is where you get the pixel from. I forgot. And to get a pixel, if you don't have one there, there'll be a button say create pixel. There's an ID I can use on all future calendars without having to put the code in. Otherwise, you can click on the pixel itself and you can continue that pixel setup. And you're pushing down forms with forms, funnels, sites, right, with snapshot. And all you want them to do is put their pixel code on it. So you can do remarketing straight away. Great, give me the install code manually. That's my pixel. I've got the right ads manager account. Copy that, go and paste that into wherever you're going. So sites, we're going to go funnels. We're going to grab that funnel anywhere it is. And I can't handle high level sitting there waiting to load, but I'm pretty sure everybody knows where the header code goes for funnels. Wait for that to load. Settings, there it is, paste it right there, right? And so that's done. So I've done anybody that's running to landing pages, I can then do remarketing and so on and so on. And the other thing was just around the business profile. So coming back out, going to settings, and then clicking on the little settings, going to all tools, going to business settings. And, you know, I've got a bunch of different business accounts sitting right here, but oftentimes that user will have absolutely nothing, just the create business button. And this is where that user needs to create the business entity that's going to be paying the bills for the ads. And that business entity then gets linked to the ads manager account, of course. So business entity pays the bill, multiple ads manager account. And I don't want to have to go through all of that, but the other thing that the SOP might have, and definitely all of our clients that run UpX as a service as part of the agencies want us to share and add a partner to the ad account. So that's another step in the SOP that we do. So one, we make sure there's a business profile. Two, make sure that we're talking to the right ads manager account, checking that the numbers line up, getting a pixel code, installing it into funnels. And of course, when we launch UpX campaigns, it can ask for the pixel there as well. And it'll just come as a drop down. You don't need to remember the numbers or anything like that. And I can demonstrate that in a second. When we do a launch new campaign, and we got great, that one, yeah. And if I do additional options, pixels, expand that section, that's the pixel I want to use. Anyway, and then the other thing is, yeah, sharing the ability for the agency to be able to go in and optimize. So they can have one login, they can see all the ad manager accounts that are running ads, and you can go in and, you know, increase budget or, you know, change locality, change headings, things like that, if you wanted to, through either UpX or Meta directly as part of like the optimization service layer that you do. So yeah, it's interesting that we didn't get a lot of people saying that they use UpX, but if you ever thought about it, or if the way that you run your onboarding for it is interesting, I'd love to hear from you about how you currently kind of do that. Cool. Harry, how many times do you reckon you work with clients that run some sort of like social media advertising?
Oh, well, if I'm not mistaken, around 4 or 5, if I'm not mistaken.
Out of 10?
Yep.
Yeah, right. So like 40 to 50%. Oh yeah, the lead form, of course. And the last step that we always take is do the lead form and then go integrations, Facebook form fields mapping. Once you launch the campaign, the form exists, and then you got to do the mapping, right, Harry? And then you're
Agree.
off and racing.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that can all exist in the SOP, right? So, but we can, and we all we need most of the time is just one sentence. You say onboarding, UpEx, and then we basically follow that entire thing. I'd be interested to see how people do it with the other third-party tools that we use. We've got things like Comet Suite, Play, Boomerang, a bunch of other things as well. I'll be interested to hear, if we do a lot of social plan and this, that, and the other. But then there's the general overview, right? So interestingly enough, this can change quite frequently based on the audience that we're talking to. If we're talking to, if you're talking to online coaches, right, they're more interested in building courses in the products of the membership section than they are about, say, Google My Business integrations. They're not looking for reputation management, right? Harry, how many course and coach creators did we talk to on a regular basis? 2, 3 out of 10, 1 out of 10? You're gone. You still there?
Yep. I'm sorry. I was on mute. Sorry. Yeah, I was talking a while ago. So I believe it's two, 2 out of 10.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah. Fitness coach, something like that.
Toggle screen video. There we go. Am I back? I don't know what's happening to my video.
Yeah, your video
Doing
is
something very bizarre.
loading.
It's loading. It'll do its thing. Interestingly, that I would say that Sam's from the UpEx team says that it's something like 30% of the guys that are winning the SaaS awards, which is, if you don't know, Harry, that's the award you get if you've got over 100 sub accounts that the high level gives you at Dallas every year.
Wow.
Sam was saying that about 30% of them are using UpEx. Now, I don't know if that's a verified fact or anything like that, but it's interesting that I guess that DIY ads are playing a crucial part in what we see. Certainly, if it's a third of agencies using high level, having sort of like beyond 100 accounts is kind of the measure of success, right? I have no idea why my camera is not working. It's kind of super frustrating, but that's okay. And I just wanted to talk about, I guess, before we kind of wrap up, Harry, have you got, I suppose, 2 case studies? We don't have to talk about the client specific, but a really good experience, right, and a really bad one. And I think we were talking about it prior to the call. Was what advice do you have for agencies, right, to avoid those bad experiences, right? And sometimes it comes down to the person, right? I've had some absolute shockers. You get on and they don't want to be there, and they want a demo or something, and this, that, the other, right? But yeah, give me your what's a really bad experience, and what's a good experience, and what advice do you have to try and make them all good?
Well, first of all, let's start with the always with the good. So
You started with
I
the good?
have
Okay, let's go.
yeah. I'll always start with the good. Then
Yeah.
later on. Okay. So we have this company. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say the company that
Don't say the
one of the
company name, but
agency.
that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Look at the
one of the
agency. Yeah.
agency that we have based in Australia. Um, it's a their I would say their niche, or the people that they cater most of the time, is real estate buyers or something like that. Um, I like how
Yeah.
they started their before their client come to us. They have this. You mentioned that a while ago that you might want to have them send an email about what needs to be expected before the onboarding. And I
Yeah.
have a good experience that their most of their client is prepared with everything that's needed in the onboarding. I had experience. She's in front of her computer, ready to talk. Logins is ready. the connection of the internet, which is the number one needed when you are onboarding, of course, the internet
Right.
connection. And
So you're talking
like,
about basic things. Yeah.
yes, of course. And she has the domain ready. um I, like mentioned, this will take care, like a vital part, to set up the account.
Yeah.
Definitely, few basic things are, she has a pen and paper for notes. She showed it to
Yeah.
me, a notepad also on the computer, and of course the 100% willingness to hear, as I explained. Now, as I
Mhm.
on board, everything was a breeze. So basically, if the client is prepared for the onboarding, um, and willing to learn, because this is a learning process for both, for her, since it's gonna be new to her, and the system might be new to her also. Even sometimes I have experienced that some people have experience already with CRM, but of course they need some stages of adaptation to the new system that they're using. So the willingness to hear, as I explained, the onboarding process is a very crucial part, and be ready. So
Yeah.
everything was good. Everything was a breeze.
But
Now
what's
let's move.
I'll just interrupt you for a second. What's also really key, what I've seen, right, is that if you set it up to be a secondary sales session, a demonstration session,
Right.
right, then we usually see a massive amount of disappointment in the person that turns up for the onboarding. Because for
Correct.
some reason they have in their head that, like, for instance, like they were told about the system, they were told about the possibilities, and then they either come themselves or they bring other stakeholders in the business to the session, and they're like, they'll get on and go, right, Harry, show us everything you've got, right? And expect like this presentation style session, whereas onboarding is in our definition, right? We're trying to get the prerequisites which lead to adoption completed, right? And that's
Correct.
why it's uh, technical in nature, right? And SOP driven, because it's really crucial that we think these things off. Anyway, I just wanted to make that point because it doesn't matter if, like, you could have different types of personalities, they're prepared or whatever, but also what they expect. And I think
Correct.
that's like one of the most important communication tools that we can't give our clients. Our agencies need to they need to figure that out. They need to be able to do that. They need to say, this is not a sales session, this is not a demonstration, this is how you get set up to use the system. Anyway, well prepared lady, pen and pencil, went smoothly.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Also,
Yeah.
since you mentioned that, I also remember one of my client, um, that I on board. She is expecting that I'm gonna show her how to get a leads. So yeah. So having that kind of
That's a
expectation,
get leads.
yeah, how to get leads, how to run the entire system, and get clients, something like that. So they have different strategies. So
Yeah.
that's not part of the onboarding, of course. More of the technical stuff. So
Yeah.
the one that I have, I would say not went well, is pretty much the reverse of what I have said a while ago. I had a client that I on board before. He definitely, she's not prepared for her onboarding. She started joining using her phone because she's expecting me that I will be the one who's setting up her account, and I'm gonna do
Right.
all
Okay. Yes.
the stuff. And
Yeah.
when I asked
Yeah.
her that she need to be in her PC, she doesn't know her credential. It took me some time to know her account,
Yeah.
because it's name on a different name. The account has a different
Yeah.
name.
Yeah.
The client also struggling with her situation, because as mentioned, you need to be ready. The client that I have here, she's with her two child and giving instruction to her two child while talking to me. So having 1 hour onboarding, it's gonna be hard to toggle, because it's gonna be a learning process, right? How can you learn something if you have
Yeah.
divided um, uh,
Yeah.
attention, right? Now,
Yeah.
during also the onboarding, this is also um, we literally don't expect people to learn all of the things that we teach them on the first onboarding. That's why we have recording. We're gonna send it to them, right? So,
Right.
but the person that I was able to talk to, she's trying to absorb everything. She's trying to clicking stuff inside this CRM before I can even explain it, and that leads us to more of like her taking over the call rather than me. I tried to explain it to her, but she said no. I know this, something like that. So something
Yeah.
like that. So those are the
Well, like you make two good points, right?
right,
One is because we've run out of time, but you make two good points. One is it's not a fulfillment call. Onboarding isn't this is how I'm going to build everything in front of you and do everything for you. Um, you're not doing the job, right? You're enabling the user of the system to be able to then go on and be able to use the system. It's not a fulfillment task. And two, it's on the opposite side of that, it's not designed to be an education session either. We don't expect people to really kind of take in what we're showing them. And I think that comes down to the way you present it, Harry. It's like, I'm going to send you a recording. This is going to be probably just completely foreign. Like, you're not going to understand some of the stuff that we're talking about here. I do. So just trust me that we need these things. I'll send you the recording. You can go back over it and look at it if you need it. I've got this checklist, but I need to make sure that we do it. Whether you understand it or you don't, I'll try my best. But, we might just end up in a situation where you've got no idea what we just did for the last 10 minutes, and that's okay. Right.
right.
Um, so yeah, look, we've gone over time. I wanted to just mention to everyone that if you are curious about what we do with onboarding with our clients, like Harry is one of many people that run onboarding here. That if you're curious about it, come and talk to us. Go to our website, book a time to talk to me, talk to Harry, whatever. There is a coupon code called ProPlan20 if you want. I'll put it up on the screen if I can. I've got to figure out how to do it. There we go. Entire screen. If you're interested, ProPlan20, check out. We've got a deal for anybody that attended this webinar. And even if you didn't attend this webinar, we're going to send that coupon out for anybody. But hey, Harry, thanks for spending an hour and a bit with me talking about onboarding. Trying to make it fun and exciting. It's quite a difficult task.
It is.
But we got through it.
It is. It is.
But
Definitely.
it's important, right?
It is.
Yeah, I mean, it's important. So, all right, man. Well, thanks again, and I'm going to see you probably very soon. Thanks for everybody that attended the webinar. Thanks, Jeremy, Robin, Ebenezer, Alicia,
Thank you, everyone.
TJ, everybody else for interacting with us. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks, David. Thanks, Robin. Have an awesome afternoon. We'll see you guys soon.
See you guys.
Thanks, Alicia. Bye now.